This episode of the Citadel Cafe is brought to you by listeners like you. Visit patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe to find out how you can become a patron and help make this show possible. This is the Citadel Cafe, episode number 311 for Wednesday, March 27th, 2019. My name is Joel Duggan, and the Citadel Cafe is where my friends and I hang out to talk about the geeky stuff that we are into. Joining me this afternoon is Megan Townsend, and you can find her at Megan Townsend, where it counts on social media. And you're under the weather today, so I really appreciate you taking the time to hang out and do a show.
Oh, no problem. I'm happy to be here. I always like doing the show. Maybe it'll make me feel better.
It is a chill podcast. I like to think that most of the content that I produce is pretty laid back. And the nice thing about podcasting is that there's no video. So even if you look like death, as long
I look like garbage.
then
I'm
it doesn't
in my
matter.
pajamas.
Right?
I'm wearing a big baggy sweater. I have my big water bottle next to me. I look like crap, but
Well, I mean,
I'm ready to have fun though.
Well, me too. I mean, I don't come dressed to podcast. I mean, I'm in a track pants, t-shirt, my dad glasses, quote unquote, and I haven't shaved in months. So like, there's that. I mean, working from home for the win, right? But I say all this to bring up something I believe I mentioned, but I want to point out again because we've seen a lot of uptick in engagement in that on the other show that I do, the Spawn Chunks. It's a podcast about Minecraft. We've started a YouTube page. And so people that want to listen to the show on YouTube can now do it. And so I'm trying to spread the word.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
How did I miss that information? Okay, well,
So if you prefer instead of using a podcast app or listening on the website or downloading it or whatever you do, I mean, I'm old school in terms of podcasts. I still think a subscription RSS feed is the easiest way to listen to them because they just show up on my phone when there's a new one. I don't have to do anything. It's just there.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a number of people, including pointed out by our recent guest Grian, that our audience on the Spawn Chunks is a Minecraft audience, and that audience is currently on YouTube. Like that is where you find them. So there's no video content. It's a still image of the show logo, and it rolls over into a still image of the art, the title card art from that particular episode. Usually it's related to the topic, a screenshot from a guest or, pictures of villagers if we were talking about villagers or something. So there's nothing to watch. Me and Johnny are not on camera, and I refuse to do podcasting, weekly on camera because I don't want to. It's like there's not enough added value when I've talked to other podcasters, either in my kind of like peer group or people that are far more successful than I am. Even at that stage, I'll ask like, so how, like, why do you guys do video? Like, why do you engage in that way? And is it worth it? And they're like, less than 5% of our audience watches the actual video. It's even people that click play and don't look, but listen, it's so small. The reason that they're out there is because of discoverability on YouTube.
Yeah.
So you don't have to pay for YouTube to say, oh, that's getting a lot of views, we're going to promote it, right? That doesn't cost you anything. YouTube just does that to make everybody's experience better. So again, a tip of the hat to Green for the recommendation because we've had a number of people discover the podcast since we started the YouTube channel. And then
you guys got a good number of subscribers on here. I'm just looking at the channel now. And like, when did you make the channel?
About 10 hours after Green suggested we make it. It was a 12-hour overnight. Let's do it. How far can we get with this, and how soon can we upload the archive? And now we're caught up, and we're updating 1-to-1. Like when we have a new show, Johnny Pixel Riffs is doing the YouTube management, so I send him the show art, and he does the audio edit. But then he also exports the quote unquote video for YouTube because it still has to be video content. Like it's just a still that's held for the 60-minute episode. But it's up there on YouTube. And I mean, the Green episodes has got 28,000 views, I think.
Yeah, I'm just looking at that right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, he's a
That's
very
insane.
very popular YouTube creator. His channel's got something like 2.8 million subscribers, and he averages his videos average in the 500,000 views, give or take. Yeah, I
Jeez.
mean, it was really nice of him to come on the show. He was a really really fun guest. He's a good guy, and and it was nice for him to kind of like point out some of the, I want to say shortcomings, but some of the dots and crosses that we had not put on our I's and T's. Because when we started the Spawn Chunks in August,
Mm.
we we just kind of went at it like a podcast. I had no idea whether the time investment was going to work out, whether it was going to be worth it, whether it was going to stick, whether we were going to get 20 episodes and then feel like we had nothing left to talk about. Turns out that's the opposite. We are just scratching the surface on all the things that we want to do. And it's got a fantastic community around it, much like the Citadel Cafe has got a fantastic community around it.
Yeah,
And I'm starting to see now a crossover where I'm recognizing some names in the Citadel Cafe Discord that are also on the Spawn Chunks Discord, which is super, super cool. I'm glad everybody gets,
that's awesome.
yeah, it's nice to have people kind of coming over and enjoying both sides of the content that I produce. And anyway, I can't remember where I was going with this, but um, the idea of just being on YouTube and having the discoverability, because that's something that is not easy to do with podcasts. Like you kind of rely on people. It's a joke that I use on the closing of the Spawn Chunks, where you kind of have to tell people to poke a friend in the arm and actually say like, no, no, you need to listen to this. You absolutely have
Mm.
to listen to this and check it out. Whereas YouTube will just point it and put it in someone's recommended feed, and they'll just like Minecraft podcast, and they're like, I'll listen to that. Click, and that's how I've discovered a number of either Minecraft YouTubers or how I've discovered a number of like video editing people that do tips and tricks and things. And because YouTube is taking the things that I've searched for, it's taking the things that I've watched and saying, oh, you liked this video by Peter McKinnon, you might like this video by, I can't remember the other guy's name. So like there's a couple of other people that I follow and I've discovered them, found their quality content because YouTube have said, because you liked X, you might like Y. So,
Mm-hmm.
so that's kind of where we're going there. I have no plans to put the Citadel Cafe on YouTube at the moment, just because it's a time sink that I can't justify. Um, but
Man, I'll help you with that if you want.
yeah, well, if I can find some help on it, then I might do it. I tried it years ago. I tried putting it on my channel, uh,
Mm.
and there are still some older episodes there. I just don't know if I want to do that. Or whether if I want to have its own channel. We
Because
sep-
your YouTube channel is kind of turned into like a Minecraft
It
channel. Is
is
that
kind of
kind
a
of what you
Minecraft
want
channel
it
right
to?
now, yeah. So, and I do have art videos that are still up there, and I do plan on doing some more art videos. Some
Mm.
of my Minecraft stuff crosses over, but with the Twitch channel, I have absolutely split the difference, and I do mostly weekday or weekday evening streams are art related, and then weekend streams are Minecraft related. So I've got a
Mm.
split there, and I would like to do some more art videos on YouTube, but the Minecraft streams translate to YouTube quite easily. Art streams, not so much. And putting long videos on YouTube is not always a good thing. We were talking
Yeah.
about this, I think, in the post show where part of your recommendation and part of your analytics is how long did a person watch and did they completely watch the video, 90% or
Yeah.
something like that. And if you've got a 3 hour stream, people might watch 45 minutes and love 45 minutes, but if they don't have 3 hours, they're not going to finish it. Whereas
Mm.
a podcast is a little bit more likely, because it's usually about an hour or less, to get a complete listening or complete viewing, right?
Yeah.
But then the longer streams are not. So a longer art stream, I would then have to edit that art stream, and I don't have the time. So what I'm doing right now with my
What you could
Patreon,
do is just like do like a time lapse thing.
well, and see, and so that's the plan is some
Yeah.
of the stuff that I do on Vastin for the larger builds that I'm doing that take a really long time. The plan is been, as I've been going, I've been collecting screenshots, I've been taking saves of the art, and I've been doing. I did one stream where I have a couple of clips, and I think what I might end up doing is downloading that footage, combining it with some still images, doing a 10-minute video, and then just playing that and doing a voiceover over it. Like have all the audio cut out and just like I'll just talk about what you're seeing on screen as it's happening. I did
Yeah.
I did that with one of my concept arts for the frost tree in Vast, and I really enjoyed it. And it didn't take terribly long, because because I've got the podcasting experience, I can kind of just hit play on the video and then hit record and be like, yeah, I'll just talk. I
Yeah.
can talk about what's going on, and it's not the end of the world.
I
Um,
really like watching videos where like I love time lapse videos, but even without a voiceover, like if you just have like music in the
Music in the
background,
background, yeah, they're very satisfying to
those are
watch.
so satisfying.
Yeah.
I love them. I love them so much. I think they're really cool. Um,
So yeah, the trick that I'm not sure
yeah,
about with the YouTube thing for the Citadel Cafe is that we made the Spawn Chunks a separate channel because it's a partnership between Johnny and I. So it was better to have a
mm,
separate entity control it. Whereas with the Citadel Cafe, that's just all me. And I could start to put the Citadel Cafe on my YouTube channel. I don't know whether the people would start to get confused between the Citadel, which is how I've branded the Minecraft videos because that's the name of the server, and then the Citadel Cafe. I mean, the
mm,
art and the length of the video should be a pretty good tip as to what's what.
yeah.
Uh, but then also, Citadel Cafe is not family friendly, so I'd have to. I think the solution would be, even though it would be great to
I think
bolster
you could put
numbers,
ratings on them though. Like you can
individual
put
videos.
like yeah, like or if you make a playlist,
Hmm.
I think you can mark a playlist as like 18 up or something.
Yeah. So I don't know. I
Um,
haven't really decided as to what I want to do with it. So because there's I believe I've either taken down the videos or I've certainly hid them from being public. The older Citadel Cafe episodes. Because the other thing is that I probably wouldn't upload an entire archive of 300 shows to
mm,
YouTube. Um, but because just the sheer amount of effort would just be I don't know that it would be worth it. It would be the kind of thing where I might start a YouTube channel for the Citadel Cafe to have it be discovered, and if going forwards, episodes, let's say 320 and onwards start to catch on, then I might say, okay, these are doing pretty well. I'm going to slowly start to upload an archive and just let people know, hey, by the way, you want to time travel? Here's episode 1 from like 2000,
yeah.
2011 or 2012 or wherever it was. But yeah, so that's just kind of like the update as to where things are going with the show. I thought some people might be interested in hearing it. We are coming into the end of the month, and that's when Patreon charges all the people that support the show. And I do a pretty good job in the Discord of keeping people up to snuff. But I wanted to take a moment on the show and just kind of let people know where I'm heading with the show. I want to do more barista cuts. I want to try to get some more bonus footage for the patrons as well. So that's kind of on my radar in the future. But if anybody out there has any input as to what you'd like to see, either for like Patreon extras or additional stuff that you want to see us try to do in the show, platforms that we're not on that you wish we were, although we're on like iTunes, Android, Stitcher, Spotify, like all the major podcast players except for YouTube. I didn't think about YouTube because like I would never think to listen to a podcast on YouTube, right? Because that just means I have to
Mm,
be at my computer, which is not what I want to do. When I'm listening to a
yeah.
podcast, I want to be out doing the dishes or
See,
doing
for
something else.
me, just the way that my apartment is laid out, um, I'll cast the podcast onto my TV,
Ah,
and
yes.
my TV is close enough to my kitchen. Like, so if I am doing dishes, I can still hear the TV. So even if it's not a video based thing, I can still hear what's going on.
Mm,
The only video podcasts that I really do watch are the Rooster Teeth content with like Always Open
yeah,
and
yeah, and
Always Open is my preferred one because that's they have it's a more of a lifestyle kind of fun blog, and it's actually run by a lady, which is really exciting because all of their other podcasts are
yeah,
very dude centric.
yeah.
Um, but but yeah,
We've been trying to find more female guests to come on for Spawn Chunks and stuff. It's hard. I mean, it's not that there aren't quality female guests to get. Just that it's just statistically there's just so many um, male YouTubers that are doing Minecraft, and
mm,
it's just kind of hard to because we're going by topic, right? And it's like, so this is the topic we're covering, or this is the thing we're going to talk about. Who's the best for that? And we just kind of look at our catchment and go like, well, actually, this person. And he was like, all right, well, that's the best person. It just happens to also be another dude. So we're
yeah,
trying to expand that a little bit more, but it's difficult. And it's the same way that we have some people complain. And again, we'll move on from the Spawn Chunks now, but people complain sometimes about us talking about the Java edition of Minecraft. Well, that's what Johnny and I play. I don't have access and cannot play Bedrock, and he does have access but doesn't have the time. So
yeah,
we don't talk about Bedrock that much. And so finding a guest or finding somebody that has more, you know, knowledge and playtime in Bedrock is also on our list because we know we have a number of people that listen that play on Bedrock. Actually, I would imagine that most of our listeners probably do because the most of the players out there play on Bedrock. So it's one of those things where, like, you kind of have to go with what you know, and so we're trying to diversify, but it's not necessarily something that we're doing on purpose. It's just like this seems to be a trend that we're noticing, so we're trying to buck it. We're trying to kind of steer back on course.
Mm.
But speaking of trends and some, I guess, bucking the trend, the topic this week for you and I is Love, Death, and Robots, which is a new
Mm-hmm.
series, original series from Netflix, and it is a series of short animations, little short films. I would say for people that might be uneducated, they would be comparable to, say, like the cinematic trailers that you see for video games, where it's not the in-game graphics, right? Like uh, Elder Scrolls does not look like the trailer for Elder Scrolls, but the trailer for
Right.
Elder Scrolls looks amazing. Like it's this cool
Mm.
showcase of like the world and the magic and some really cool characters doing some cool stuff. Very often in video game trailers, there's not a lot of talking. Sometimes there is, but in MMOs, they tend to be, with the exception of maybe Blizzard, they tend to not have a lot of vocal stuff because you kind of imagine the player, you know, RPing as one of these characters, and you
Yeah.
kind of want to leave it as open as you can. But Love, Death and Robots has, I can't remember how many episodes are in the series, how many shorts are in the series, but it's up in the
There's like 18, I
18.
think.
Yeah, it's more than the average season. It's more like it's almost double. So
Yeah.
I watched four. You watched more than four, but I thought the thing to
Yes.
do would be to talk about the four that we both saw at first.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to limit it to that, but we can talk about those and see kind of where we get. We're going to try to avoid spoilers. We might get into a few things here and there that we think are either not important or, like, I don't necessarily think revealing a joke is all that spoilery, but some of these are pretty deep that I've seen, and it would be better, I think, for people to experience them on their own because I think
Yes.
it's excellent original content. Like it's different than anything that you've seen on Netflix for the most part. Uh,
Yeah, I've really, and I've never really seen anything like it in general, at least not like as mainstream as Netflix is making it
Yeah, so we had
either.
when I was working in animation, early 2000s, we there was a channel, it was actually a podcast. It was a video podcast that you could download and watch, and it was called Channel Frederator, I think.
Okay.
And it was a collection of animated shorts, some of which were not safe for work, some of which were just plain old, artistic animated shorts. I've gone to a lot of film festivals where there's a lot of animated short compilations and stuff like that. And true to form, the film festival experience is usually what you expect it to be, is weird because it's not necessarily people that are animators in the sense that most pop culture people think about animation. They think about Disney, Pixar, How to Train Your Dragon and DreamWorks. Like, they think about mainstream stuff. They think about
Mm-hmm.
cartoons. They think about The Simpsons. And not all animation is like that. And when you get into more artsy, more expressive sort of situations, then animation can vary greatly in a good way. It's just that the flavor of that animation is not for everyone. So I'll prefix this by saying that Love, Death, and Robots, even the trailer is red tag, red band, not safe for work. So watch the stuff at home. Definitely don't watch it with kids around because it's animated.
No.
Some of it even looks cartoony. Like one of the shorts we're going to talk about, Suits, looks very cartoony, looks kind of like Plants vs. Zombies, but they're dropping F bombs and they're blowing up all kinds of stuff and people die. Like, so there's content in here that is absolutely not for kids. This is like 18 plus minimum.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even like
Yeah.
even maybe I might even suggest a trigger warning for some of this stuff because like it is gory. And
It is. I was actually very surprised how gory some of it was. And there are some, like, there's one that we're going to talk about that was pretty gory, but there's another one that's almost even gorier
mm-hmm.
later on. That's in the same similar animation style. Um, That's like you haven't watched it yet, but I've already watched it, and some of them
Oh,
get really,
okay, yeah.
really, really
I
gory.
mean, I know that there's some in the trailer because I've seen the trailer, and some of the clips in the trailer are from shorts, obviously that I haven't seen yet. And there's
Yeah,
one in the trailer where like someone gets ripped in half, and you see like their skin, their muscles, then their skull, and then their brains and their eyeballs are all like ripped off layer by layer by layer, in
yeah,
like folding open a sandwich. It's like, wow, did I really need to see that? I don't know if I needed to see that. But then like
uh-huh.
I'm not a horror movie guy, and there's a whole ream of people out there that love horror films and love the gory horror films, and it's not scary, it's the gross out factor. It's like, oh god, I'm really uncomfortable, like, so that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And so I'll say straight out that out of the four that I watched, 50% of them I thought were great. Like, yes, they're for adults. I had to retune my brain a little bit and just like, yes, I have to be prepared for a farmer to say fuck and for me to not recoil because he looks like a Pixar cartoon.
Yes.
It's a little bit to get used to. It pushes your boundaries in a good way. The other 50%, I was very uncomfortable. A lot of it I
Mm.
found unnecessary. And that I think
Yes.
speaks to my personality, the type of content that I like to watch. But also, I worked and trained in animation for the better part of 10 years. And I know my view of animation can be a little bit unforgiving with the more adult stuff. I always knew it existed, but I never liked watching it because I was just like, this kind of makes me feel dirty. Like, you just
Hmm.
not. I mean, some of it's in terms of sexual content, some of it in just terms of violence, um, all that kind of stuff. I'm just like, man, this is a little bit over the top. I'm not sure why this is necessary, because I grew up loving Warner Brothers cartoons. I grew up in the 80s with the heyday of Disney animation. So, like, there's a lot of pop culture, we'll call it training, that my artistic sense when it comes to animation gravitates to in terms of appealing versus what is to me unappealing. Now, I say all that. And when I was in animation school, I watched a lot of Happy Tree Friends. Do you remember this? Have you ever seen this?
Hmm. Oh boy, do I.
Man, I I laughed so hard at Happy Tree Friends. And I
See,
think,
I thought I couldn't watch Happy Tree Friends
see,
because I was like, what is happening? Why
yeah,
is this a thing?
I think I was just at the right age group, and it was just enough of a throwback to it looks like, gummy bears, and it looks like a children's cartoon, but then it gets very violent, and it just it's over the top, and for whatever reason, it's cartoony enough that it didn't gross me out. I just thought
Mm.
it was more of a shock factor. It was very similar actually to Family Guy when Family Guy first came on television. We were all gathered around
Yeah,
the television in university watching the Family Guy because we just could not believe what they were going to say next on television. Like, that was, we just could
yeah,
not believe that they were getting away with it. And Simpsons was the same thing in the 90s, same idea. And so Happy Tree Friends for me was like, I can't believe they actually animated this. And so now that
yeah.
that's all behind me, when you get into these Love, Death, and Robots shorts, I can absolutely believe it because, like I said, they look like cinematic trailers for video games. Video games, as everybody knows, can be very violent.
Hmm.
And when you have, like, what is it, like Left 4 Dead or other zombie franchises, when you've got,
Mortal Kombat.
yeah, Mortal Kombat's an excellent example of like very over the top, like grab someone by their skull and rip their spine out, and like it's the
Yeah,
kind of gory stuff that like people are like, wow, that was disgusting, and kind of like I'm laughing because I'm kind of uncomfortable way, and I feel like these kind of go in that direction. So let's talk about the first one. I don't know if you watched them in this order or not, but this is how they're
I
listed
didn't
on
know, and
Netflix.
I read somewhere that they actually switch the order around periodically. That they've done that on
Oh,
purpose.
interesting. Okay.
From my understanding, I will say you keep going back to the video game trailer thing. I know that Blur Animation is responsible for a lot of the show, and they are also responsible for a lot of trailers for video games.
Yes.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so they are like a video game animation trailer company,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, I think
Um,
before Blizzard brought their stuff in house, that Blur was doing the animation for a lot of the Blizzard World of Warcraft trailers and stuff.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they've been around a long time and they do some really, really, really cool work. I uh,
Um,
I know that I went in kind of blind. I saw the trailer for Love, Death, and Robots, and then I didn't even read any of the descriptions. Like,
mm,
I just sort of hit play, and then, well, once I was watching one, I just kind of let Netflix play like three or four in a row as I was eating dinner last night.
Yes,
which,
yeah, we did the same thing.
by the way, maybe not a good decision.
Yeah, don't eat
Yeah.
while you're watching it. There's a couple moments where I actually had to look away and be like, "Wow, okay,
Yeah.
no, no thanks."
Yeah, and so the first one I watched was Sony's Edge, and I have to say that it's a good one to start with. I didn't dislike
Hmm.
it, but boy does it prepare you for all the things that I think are coming. Like it is a flavor palette cleanser. If you just watched something like The Dragon Prince, this is not it. Like
No.
this is going to change your mind real fast. And I would even caution people in reading the description for Sony's Edge because it's very long and it spoils the short. I've shortened it here to remove all that kind of stuff, but the
I
description,
didn't even read it. It actually spoils the
it
short.
does, yeah. It gives away all
Well,
kinds of stuff. So I've
okay.
cut that part out, but the description is in a dystopian future, a cyberpunk future, excuse me. A scarred and traumatized young woman partakes in gruesome death matches with engineered beasts, mercilessly tearing each other apart for sport. It goes on from there to describe like a third of the action that happens, which is silly because they could leave it there and that's all I would need. It's like, all right, cyberpunk creatures, battle royale sounds good. I'm in. Um,
Hmm.
but it's one of these things that has a twist, and I really enjoyed that twist. So don't read the description. Go in and watch it, on your own because I think that it's worth it in the long run. It is extraordinarily violent,
Yeah.
and at first it's violent with these creatures, so it's less of a problem because you're watching these things that are completely imaginary, like things that have got four tails and spiky heads, and one looks like it's made out of rock. Like there's all this kind of stuff that's happening. It reminds me of the fight between Hulk and the Abomination in the Incredible Hulk movie with Ed Norton.
Yeah.
And so when one of those guys bleeds green, you're not really grossed out because it's like it's not real. Like nothing about it seems feasible, right? But the violence that happens against other human characters in the short does feel real and is visceral and very
Mm.
off-putting for me. How did you handle the I guess the smack in the face from Sony's Edge?
Um, Initially I was just like, "Oh, okay, whoa, like, yeah, why are we doing this? We've already been through it all."
Mm-hmm.
Um, my Colin, my boyfriend, wasn't at all surprised. He's like, "Yeah, I was expecting that. That was I kind of felt that was coming." It seemed too perfect, I guess, at the end, like, to
Mm-hmm.
have her win, and then um yeah. I liked that one. I think I liked that one up to a point. I liked that one until after the match, and
Yes.
then and then the whole middle point before the twist was revealed, I was just like, why why is this happening?
So
And
and
on one hand, part of my brain was just like, okay, great, diversity. On the other hand, this feels like the beginning of a really badly written porn movie.
and that's how I felt too. And that's where I started to feel
Yeah.
really uncomfortable because like, well, okay, everything that had happened up to that point followed the setup. Like it followed the description. It followed your expectations of like this rich dude asks the fighter to take a fall. It's insert any mob movie where they're betting on boxing matches from like the 70s, right? I mean, this is
Mm.
not a new idea. And so the young scrappy fighter says, "I don't take falls. Like that's not happening. You don't understand." And so they go out and she fights and these two monsters go at it and that was really cool. I mean, like I mean regardless of any criticisms, the quality of the animation and
Amazing.
the visual
Beautiful.
design, the cyberpunk grittiness, like very very interesting. I found that the bad dude, the tall rich guy that was being a dickhead, reminded me of the Joker. And I think it's just the way that they
Yes.
animated his face. He reminds me of the Joker character from the Batman Arkham games.
Yeah, it's got a similar vibe.
Yeah, which is good because you just your skin crawls just looking at the guy. Like everything about him says like ugh, So like mission accomplished. Uh, but yeah, right after the match, there is an engagement between two women, and it
Mm.
gets sexual. And there was no indication in any other part of the story to suggest that this would be important or part of it. and I thought it was gratuitous. I didn't think it was necessary. And
I agree.
when you get into the monsters destroying one another with blood and guts and gore and chopping off arms and like bone saws and all this kind of stuff, and then you get these two, well, we'll say attractive. One of them is pretty roughed up from the fight, but you get these two, cookie cutter kind of like attractive characters, both women that for no
Yeah.
reason at all, are all of a sudden engaging in one another sexually. It just feels like a 14-year-old's wet dream, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's just
Yeah.
like, and so I thought, I'm going to look up to see if this whole thing was produced from top to bottom by dudes, because it certainly feels like it. Well,
Mm-hmm.
surprise. 50% of the directing team is women. And I want to say a good part of um, not the production team, but the producing team. So like the producers, people listed as the producers, there was 5 or 6, and three of them I think are also women. So I thought, all right, well, it's not, like it was all written by a guy, a couple of guys,
Yeah.
right? So I mean that to me was not a surprise. But I was like,
No.
well, it's there's a couple. The supervising director was a woman, so I was like, I don't necessarily feel like it forgives it, because it still felt like a 14-year-old's fantasy. But I
Yeah.
again, like I went in there after watching it thinking this is just going to be all dudes. They're all, it felt inappropriate for where we are and what I feel society is trying to do,
I agree.
hot on the tails of Captain Marvel, which was a phenomenal movie and does so much for, say, female superheroes and pop culture icons and stuff like that. And then to watch this, I'm just like, oh, really? It feels like a step backwards in so many ways.
I agree. I will say that there was like one indication. I had a feeling that there was going to be some like romantic tension or something, because when the rich guy comes up and like looks at the beast and says she's magnificent, or he's
Yeah.
magnificent, yeah, Sonny looks at his little lady friend
Hmm.
and says yes, she is. That there's like
Right.
this very obvious like eye contact thing between them, but I don't know, just the
Hmm.
whole like pacing and the conversation that was happening while they were getting intimate just felt really gross.
Yep.
Like I had to watch it again. The first time I watched it, I was kind of just like taking it in, and then I was like, "Oh wow, okay, what's going on?" But
Hmm.
there was something just kind of gnawing at me. I watched it again this morning, and I was like, "That's what it was." It just felt really stilted and just very like, "And this is going to happen because the script said so."
Yeah.
Because lesbians.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Because
it.
lesbians. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
I felt that too. Although I have to say that it did start to feel, you know what I mean when I say things are too good to be true? Like it's just like
Yeah. Yes.
this is too easy. Something about this
Yeah.
is off. Well, I was rewarded by thinking that, because there's two twists, and we won't reveal what they are because I really feel that people should watch this for themselves. But there are
Hmm.
two twists that I really enjoyed. The first one I saw coming, and I was just like, okay,
Yeah.
yep, that makes sense. The second one, I did not see coming until it was revealed. Like it was just as
Yeah.
soon as it happened, there was one line that was uttered by someone, and you and I can talk about this later, because again, I don't want to spoil too much, but um, there was one line that was uttered at the very very end, and then I clued in, and then I realized what Sony's edge was, and I was like,
Mm,
oh man. And then I did get
yeah.
excited, because when the reveal at the end happened, you feel like you feel victorious, like as the viewer. So even though there was uncomfortable moments, there was a lot of stuff that I don't necessarily find is my cup of tea. Overall, I think it did achieve its goal. So I don't dislike it. I just dislike
Yeah.
some of the content.
Yes, me too. I will say as well, like this is a theme I think in a couple of them, not just in Sunny's Edge, but some later ones down the line as well, where they use this theme of women who've gone through sexual trauma as a form of empowerment.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I really like that very much. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like on one hand, yes, like being able to, rise up and kind of overcome traumas that you've experienced is super powerful, but using that as a storytelling trope I find is really disrespectful
Mm.
and a little bit problematic. So that is a thing that I did notice just throughout some of the anthologies, that just it's a perpetuated stereotype
Yeah.
or perpetuated trope that I didn't really like. Like just you they could have taken out the whole sexual assault thing entirely.
Yeah, it's not relevant. You
Um,
don't even have to
it
mention
wasn't
it.
relevant in any. Yeah, it
She
wasn't relevant in any way,
the
shape, or
physical
form.
scars that the character has are
Was
enough to
enough.
say it doesn't necessarily
Yeah.
have to be anything other than like she's had a violent history. You can just piece together
Yes.
what that is. Maybe she was in a war, maybe she was mugged, maybe there was other things that went on. Like just but
Yeah.
you don't need to.
To like pinpoint exactly what
Yeah,
it is, and the fact that they used it as a way to pinpoint,
yeah.
and she's talking about it while she's engaging in this intimate
Mhm.
scenario with this other woman, it just feels very stilted.
Mhm.
Um, and it's like, whoa, you guys have never spoken to a woman before ever. It
Yes.
feels like.
Yeah. Even I was feeling like that. I was just like, I'm not
Yeah.
like, I don't know. Like, I still feel like, and in a number of occasions, I know on the Citadel Cafe when we've talked about Game of Thrones, and my guest happens to be another man, and we're talking about a sexually violent scene, we're always very quick to point out, hey, like two middle-aged white guys talking about this.
Mm,
We're not gonna understand. We're not gonna hit all the points. Like we just know it, right? There's just no way for
yeah.
us to do it. And I feel like even me watching this, some of those flags are going up, going like, this has to be making some female viewers either uncomfortable or mad or like all kinds of.
Oh, there's a lot of people who are a little bit mad about it
Oh,
online.
really? See,
Yeah, I
I've been
know. I
staying
had a
away. I wanted to steer clear of that ahead of this show, so it didn't kind of influence my opinions. Um,
yeah.
but I might look up a little bit more afterwards. I'm not usually one to
Mm,
look up articles about stuff anyway, just because I find it's just people getting on soapboxes, and I don't need to. Here I am standing on my own soapbox saying that, saying that I'm not going to read anybody else's. But yeah, I mean, I feel like in this sort of situation, it's you and I having a conversation, whereas in articles, it's just usually one person's stream of thought, and there's not a discourse usually.
yes.
Or if there is, it's in the comments, and we all know in the internet don't read the comments. So
Yeah, don't. You just
yeah,
never do.
yeah. So
Stay
there's
away.
that. But again, like I enjoyed the quality of it. It does set the tone for the kind of stuff that's going to come, and I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Do you
I
want to?
also really like the use of the blacklights effects in that one. Like as soon
Oh,
as that happened,
production
I was
design
like,
was bang
"Oh."
on.
Like
Really cool.
it looks really good. And that's why I
Yeah,
was like, I'm in this like in the first half, and then like the kind of end half happened and I was like, "Meh, okay. All right. Well, it was good." And then the twist happened and I was like, "Okay, it's still good."
yeah,
With some unnecessary content, but still good. Like I liked it. I
yeah.
still enjoyed it.
And I like the idea that there's like you go in there thinking you're going to get robots and mechs and guns and space stuff, and they go cyberpunk where the robotics is cybernetic implants between this genetically engineered monster.
Mm,
Essentially, they're like kaiju, like they're like Godzilla type
yeah.
things. They're not that big, but they're still big enough. And so the pilot, the person, the human, has got a cybernetic implant, and then helpers connect them mentally to these beasts, and they transport their mind inside the mind of the beast, and that's how they fight. It's an awesome concept. Like it's so unique. It's not BattleBots where you've got somebody with a remote control controlling two robots in the ring, right? Like I mean, it has a unique twist to it that I thought was really really cool.
Mm.
Do you want to talk about the witness next and rip off that band-aid, or do you want to talk about something else?
We can rip that
All
off.
right. So I thought this was terrible. Uh, the synopsis is: after seeing a brutal murder, a woman flees from the killer through the streets of a surreal city. And I thought it was gratuitous and predictable and hard to watch cinematically. Like they do this thing where they shake the camera, and a lot of
Mm,
there's like a cell shaded effect on some of the geometry, so things feel either out of focus or they feel tilted or uneasy. And I guess the idea was to try to make the viewer feel uneasy with the character and panicked. But instead,
yeah.
all it did for me was like I can't focus on anything. Like everything was in focus and out of focus all at the same time. I had no
Mm,
idea where I was supposed to look. The audio is basically just 10 minutes of heavy breathing and screaming and running. And it just completely, it reminded me of all the stuff where you're in a film festival screening of like 8 or 12 shorts, and you realize that the one that you're going to be about to watch is one of those quote unquote artsy ones. And you're just like, oh, geez, these are always 10 minutes long and they always suck. And there's always that
yeah.
exchange between you and the friend that you've gone with to be like, oh, God, this
What
is
is
we're
this?
10
Yeah.
seconds into this and this is so far from over. And then the
Yeah.
ones that you love, the ones that are beautifully animated and so fun and so funny, are like a minute and a half, and it's like son of a bitch.
Yeah.
why do you do this to me? So The Witness, I don't remember how long it is. It's not super super long, but I knew what was going on from moment one.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't I thought this one was the most visually striking for me personally.
Okay.
I thought it looked the coolest. I liked the rotoscoping on top of the CGI that
Mm-hmm.
also kind of felt like it was live acted, but also may could have been mocapped, and like there was a lot
Mm-hmm.
of really good weight to the
Oh,
animation,
the
which I
movement was
liked. A
good.
lot of
Yes, the
very,
character movement
yeah,
was
very,
good.
very natural movement and things. Um, I liked the simple plot idea, like a murderous Groundhog Day loop
Mm-hmm.
was, it's what I liked about a lot of these is that a lot of them were like familiar concepts that
Right.
were slightly askew. And I kind of like that because like there's no original ideas anymore. Like
Yeah.
we've done them all, right? So being able to take an idea that we all know really really well, let's add a little something to it.
Yeah,
I
especially
like that a
in a
lot.
15-minute short where you don't have,
Exactly.
act one of a feature film to world build and character develop and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Um I did feel it was also gratuitous though. Like there was
Oh
a
my
huge
God.
section right in the middle that was just completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
But I did like the way some of the movement was timed to music. I like some of the camera angles that they chose to use. It was all like I thought the design of everything was very very visually striking. It was all it I don't know. It kind of reminded me of like the Borderlands video game,
Oh
but
yeah. Oh, absolutely.
also
That's
like
yeah. That's what it looks
I
like.
thought it looked really really neat, and I
Mm-hmm.
liked the use of like comic book. Like if someone sat down, there'd be like a little thud that kind of came up. It kind of reminded me of Scott Pilgrim a little bit, where like
Yep.
anytime there was a sound effect, there had like a visual word of like the onomatopoeia,
Yeah. Yep.
of the effect, and so I liked those elements. Again, the gratuitous nudity and sexuality was probably not super necessary. Also, shenanigans. It was set in China. There's no way there'd be no other cars, and there's no way there'd be no people on the streets.
Yeah.
Like that's like the most unrealistic aspect of the entire thing
Yeah.
is the
Yeah.
fact that it's set in China,
Yeah,
and
and there's no
yeah,
one else around. Yeah, no,
yeah,
it's and to boot, like when they drive down the street in the cabs, there's huge buildings, just
yeah.
massive, and there's
So
no
like,
one else on the street.
where are the people?
Yeah,
Where are the people?
yeah,
There's no way. But like that's the only thing. It was really colorful. It's very, very bright
yeah.
colors. It's very
I
I liked the way it looked. I get why you wouldn't.
yeah.
And I get why people
I
wouldn't,
mean,
but
again, it gets some points for originality in terms of the art direction and how it looked. I just don't feel like as over. I found that that was distracting. There was
mm,
a couple of points in close-ups where it's just like, oh wow, I can really tell that you phoned in the geometry. Like this model is really not all that good. Like flat, dead eyes. Like there was a lot of stuff about it that
mm,
was not great. That was being masked, or you were not supposed to pay attention to that because you're supposed to be looking at, like, how cool the hair slash outline slash shaky camera. Like there's all these elements that were meant to distract you from a couple of things that I didn't feel were all that good. But my
mm,
criticisms mostly come from the gratuitous nudity and sexuality, and the I felt like it glorified violence, even though it still feels like a brutal murder, and there still feels like there's a clear bad guy. um like it's scary. Like the man in it chasing the woman down is not, it's not a good feeling, right?
no, it's
um
not. And I think that's kind of the point too. Like
mm,
I think a lot of the point of these, and someone argued with me about this a little bit, but I was like I think it leaves you feeling a little bit uncomfortable on
oh
purpose.
absolutely, yeah, 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 yeah. Don't go
Again,
looking
I
for
still
happy
think
endings.
no, yeah. Um, I don't think that some of the execution was super. Uh, I'm trying to find a way to word this. I think some of the execution was a little bit elusive. I think that the intent was good,
mm,
but the way it came across was not very sensitive. But I also think that's kind of part of the point. I don't know. It's like when you get into art territory like this, and it does feel like
yeah.
art
Oh
territory.
absolutely.
It's you may be trying to deliver a message, but when it's so vague, and really loosey goosey, it's kind of people are going to take different things from it, definitely.
Hmm.
Which is why, like, I think there are some people who are getting really mad about it, and some people are loving it, and there's this different dichotomy because it is meant to be like a series of art shorts.
Yeah. And
They are artistic.
yeah, the issue that I have with stuff like this is that even though they've smacked an R rating on everything, I had access to R rated movies when I was 14 and 15 when I shouldn't have.
Mm,
These days, even more people of that age are going to have access to this, whether they are allowed to or not allowed to watch it. They will find a way. And
yeah,
I think for impressionable young minds, that more of this stuff is just not good. Like
it's not
I
good.
don't
Like
think
they could have dialed it back by like so much. Like
you
just
could
like
still communicate all that you needed to communicate in that short, like you and do exactly like you said. They could have dialed it back and still achieve their goal.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was done in the name of being edgy, which I think is probably why I have a little bit of an issue with
Mm-hmm.
it.
Yep.
It's like, oh, we're just gonna be edgy.
Or
It's on
this or
Netflix,
the
but we
sake
can
of
be
it.
edgy.
Yep. It's like DC
Yeah,
films. Everything's dark and gritty because it's the opposite of Marvel, right? It's like there's no good reason
yeah.
for it. Movies are better when they're not. And sorry, superhero movies are better when they're not dark and edgy
Mm.
and gritty and stuff like that. I couldn't sleep a couple weekends ago and I ended up watching that third Nolan Batman film, The Dark Knight Rises. It doesn't hold
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
It's not good.
Nah.
It's terrible. Uh,
The only thing that holds up is Heath Ledger.
no,
Is that the right one
no,
I'm
the
thinking of?
other one, the
The
one
other
with
one.
Bane, the one with
Oh,
the guy with the
yeah,
mask
no.
and all that kind of stuff. It's
Oh,
not.
Tom Hardy. Yeah,
Yeah, Tom
bad.
Hardy. There, I mean, there's a couple of
I
things
mean, I love
about.
Tom Hardy,
Yeah,
but
there's a couple of things about Bane. If it's not Bane, if you don't think about him as Bane, if you think about him as just like a generic movie bad guy, he actually is pretty good. He's pretty vicious. There's some things that he does that feel bad. Like he's crazy, and you get that he is hell bent on his mission, and that he believes he's doing good, and that's what makes him so scary. Um,
mm,
but everything else about that film is just like this doesn't feel heroic. Like it just feels like failure after failure after um yeah, like it doesn't have the same sort of feeling. Even if you watch something like Winter Soldier, which I just rewatched the other day, uh even though it's not necessarily a win, right? Like it's the Empire Strikes Back of the three Captain America movies. It still feels heroic. Like your hero was unwavering and he always did the right thing, like, and at least in this particular movie. And that's where I think that,
mm.
that's where DC, I think, fails. So when it comes to, I shouldn't say DC, when the Superman, Batman, Justice League stuff, I mean, Wonder Woman is great. Um,
Yeah.
but with these shorts, it's good that they're challenging that. Like it's good that they're saying, look, things don't always have a happy ending. This is more real life and more art. But they're taking that trope of being gritty for gritty's sake, and without a purpose, it has no weight. It just desensitizes, or it feels like it's meant to desensitize when it shouldn't. These are the kind of things that we
Yes.
should be sensitive
Yes,
about,
yeah,
right?
and it is, yeah, it is very unsensitive. It is
Yes.
not very sensitive at all. And I think yeah, there's something niggling at the back of my brain while I was watching all of these, and I'm just like, there's just something really just I'm liking it, but I'm also like, what is this? And it was like rewatching it, I was like, it's not sensitive to anything.
Yeah.
It
Well,
is just
yeah.
like,
And in a way,
yeah,
it's the same way that a lot of people were reacting to Game of Thrones, kind of like in that third and fourth season when things started to get very violent and characters that you know and loved were dying unnecessarily, and it
mm,
was just because the way that the story goes, and you couldn't at that point see the larger picture, and there was a lot of revolt against like how violent that show is and was, and like all that kind of stuff, and I feel like um, that's what happens when you've got places like Netflix and HBO and stuff that is outside of the overly conservative, network television uh, market, in that they sometimes go too far the other way just because they can, because they're a private network or because they're an independent and they don't have to answer to, the governing bodies. They have the gloves are off, so, like the handcuffs are off, and they think, wow, the handcuffs are off, so they stretch a little bit too far, and I
yeah,
feel like I mean, I have to watch the rest of these. I can't judge the whole series, obviously, but
right,
I'm
yeah, of course,
hoping that if this happens again, from what I've seen, that the animators and producers and writers, having seen all these, kind of go, okay, so that's what we can do. So let's make a decision as to what we should do,
Yeah.
knowing we have no limits, but also knowing we don't have to go that far just to say that we
Yeah.
did.
And
And
there are some limits that are like, oof,
yeah,
like pushed
after that
or
first one,
severely
after Sony's
passed.
Edge, I kind of know what I'm in for.
Mm.
Yeah, so but we can move on to talk about, let's do Suits because I want to make sure we talk about this one because this one's my favorite.
Yeah.
This is a community of farmers that use their homemade mechs to defend their families from an alien invasion. This is the one that looks like Fortnite. It looks like Plants vs Zombies or a edgy Pixar cartoon. There's a
Yeah.
little bit of cell shading going on, but not much. It's mostly colorful. Things are big and chunky. The lead guy Hank reminds me of the sheriff from Stranger Things. Like he's got the
Kind of, but like a little bit
yeah,
nicer. Like, I
yeah,
don't know,
yeah. Oh
like,
yeah, a little bit more pleasant because he's got a wife and a
yeah.
cup of coffee, and he's like, "All right, hon, you
Asking her if she wants some pie and he's drinking tea and,
yeah, exactly." And then
you
it's like,
know,
"Oh, we got a breach on the perimeter, Hank. All right, well, I'll gotta go and take care of that." And he's complaining about moving the herd and all these typical farming vernacular, like home on the range stuff. But moving the herd means picking up the cow with your giant mech claw and moving it across the field. Like, there's just
yeah.
some things that are just out there. And they're taking like the
Yes.
everyday, the relatable, the identifiable, and putting this wonderful homemade sci-fi twist on it because these mechs are not like space age and sleek. It's like a tractor with feet. Like
Hmm.
it's so good.
I liked the concept of like, all right, just gonna hop on my mech and I'm gonna like fire my land. Also, I can use it as a plasma gun.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Like, I don't
yeah.
know, that was kind of neat.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I kind of liked again that trope of like taking familiar concepts and just twisting them slightly. I really like it. Like like aliens are a really standard thing. Like
Yeah.
bug aliens breaching a force
Well,
field
it's
is
like
pretty,
coyotes, right? Like the idea is that
yeah,
you've got some other predatorial species that is coming to take your livestock and you've got to keep them out.
yeah,
So instead of a barbed wire fence, it's a force field, and instead of
yeah.
a fox, it's this four-legged kind of, it almost looked like an alien from Aliens, but on four legs. It has that kind of like hard carapace head with no eyes. It's mostly teeth. Makes
Yeah,
a bunch of snarling noises and drools a lot. And then there's a lot of them. They don't one individually is not particularly strong, but
they
they
swarm.
swarm, and so like it has like
Yeah,
a StarCraft kind of like Zerg feel to it, and
yeah.
so there's some familiar territory there. It's very well animated. My gosh, does everything look and feel fun?
It looks good. And it felt like a lot more wholesome than I think some of the other ones did. Like,
Yeah,
so I know that the concept of like love, death, robots, like all of them are supposed to have a concept of love, death, and robots in each short.
right,
That was like the one stipulation. It was almost like an entry for a film festival. I mean, we're
right.
talking about film festivals a whole bunch. The only one that I found had the most wholesome representation of love. Like no sexualization or anything, but like, happy married couples and
Right.
like, just love amongst neighbors and things. Like
Mm-hmm.
everyone's trying to get to like everyone's kind of looking after each
Save the
other
family.
in a
Yeah.
way and
Get the
like being
families in the
neighbors
bunker.
like that. But with a lot of action.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
um, yeah, and it was very action packed. It was really I liked the choreography of it. I liked the design of the mechs. I thought that they were like really janky looking, which kind of made it feel like they made them themselves.
Yes, I liked the
So I
first
kind of
one.
like that sort of
I
yeah,
liked Hank's, and I don't remember her name. There's an elderly. That's not a word. There's an elderly lady that smokes a cigar, and she's a rough tumble kind
yeah.
of gal, and she's got a four-legged kind of almost look like a backhoe sort of mech, and that was kind of unique looking. But I felt like visually they should have been more diverse between the three of them. I liked the
Mm,
concept. I like that cobbled together. I welded these three things together and put a plasma reactor in it, and that gives me my thing. Plus, I've got a Gatling gun and all these other kind of things. Like I like that aspect of it, but I kind of wish they had had a more diverse shape and silhouette. I did feel like when all three of them were together, it just sort of felt like they were very samey. But that could
yeah.
have been because they're all mechs, like the two legs and long arms, and like they're all most of them were bipedal except for the one other one that I talked about. But yeah, so there was a little bit of I guess visual I guess sameness there happening. But I just love the fact that there's you look at this thing and it looks like a tractor and it's got a winch on the back and like he's using it to fix a fence and move some cows. But then all of a sudden he drops out like Gatling guns and there's missile launchers and laser
Yeah.
beams and like this is the kind of, I mean, we talked about a 14-year-old's wet dream before. This is a 14-year-old's sci-fi dream. Like, this is the kind of stuff that I would have
Yes.
drawn when I was 14. Like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
this would have been so much fun to work on. The concept designer and the production design team on this must have had an absolute ball designing this stuff because everything has to be invented. It's like, okay, so this is a silo, but what if the silo is also a rail gun? It's like,
Yeah, no, it was really, really fun.
right?
Like I think I would think it was definitely my favorite overall. Out of all the ones that I watched, it was my favorite. Um, I don't know, I liked it. It was, yeah, it definitely felt like the most pure
Yeah,
out of the lot of them.
it had a good heart to it. You know,
Yeah.
there's some loss. You know, like you see some grieving for loved ones. You see that relationship between Hank and his wife was really good. Um, and I like that the women were not damsels in distress, right? Like they weren't necessarily out on the battlefield, but it wouldn't have made any sense if there was like 6 or 8 of them because you needed the quote unquote guy or girl in the chair with the headset looking at the monitors telling Hank and his crew like where they're coming from, how much time they got. Uh,
Yeah.
her job was getting um, families safe and in the bunker, but she wasn't afraid to pick up a shotgun either, right? So
It's true.
so
Yeah.
they had that, like it was a different role, but just because it wasn't front lines doesn't mean that she was just cowering in the in the house waiting for her husband to come home and save the day, right? Like
Yeah,
everybody had a role to play.
she had a lot of like they had a lot of agency, which I think is why I like this one the most because everyone felt like they were on equal ground.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone felt like they were in this together.
Yep.
No one felt, belittled or lesser
Yeah.
than anyone else.
She
So,
knows how to use all the stuff too, and
um,
they even hinted at the end that she designed some of it.
yeah. So like I don't know. I would love to see more like that.
Mm-hmm.
I would like I just again I haven't seen any of the others. So I gave you a list of what I've seen.
Right.
Some of the others that I did watch were really still just I don't know, like all, problematic
Yeah,
for lack of a better word.
probably for all the same reasons that we've discussed about The Witness
Yes,
and
yeah,
Sonny's Edge. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. But this was just super fun. Like I would play this video game. I want this video game to
yeah.
exist. Like it
I
even
would
though I
watch
know it
more of
was,
a show about that
yeah,
one.
like that would be
Like,
phenomenal. Oh man, if this
yeah,
could come up and be a show like a series, I am
yeah,
on board. With the one complaint that I would want more diverse aliens. I was a little disappointed
yes,
that it was just swarms of bugs, and because when they were talking about aliens, and once I saw all the cool design work and like all the set building and the world building and the mech, and they still hadn't revealed what the aliens looked like, I was really
mm,
hopeful. I thought we were going to get like an intelligent, like bipedal alien that was going to have like a militaristic kind of thing, and you were going to have like these really advanced aliens being beaten down by heart and steel and bullets, like but instead you
hmm
get bugs, and it's fine, it's not the end of the world, but I was hoping for something a little bit more diverse in that world. But yeah, I would absolutely watch more of those if they made them.
yeah.
I think this last one is probably going to be your favorite, or one of your favorites. uh
So it was the first one that I watched.
oh really?
What, Three Robots?
Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. Okay, so this one's
So
called.
Three Robots was my very first experience.
Oh, wow. So they set the bar high for you and then they ripped the rug out from underneath you.
I know. I know.
Oh,
So I feel a
wow.
little bit cheated
Yeah.
slightly.
So
You go ahead.
in the three robots, long after the fall of humanity, three robots embark on a sightseeing tour of a post-apocalyptic city. I can't speak today. Um, these three
It's bad for
robots,
podcasting.
yeah, I know, right?
Sorry.
Uh, these robots are in a lot of the trailers and a lot of the promotional art that you'll see online because it's one of the few safe things that they can show. It
Yeah.
kind of like one of the robots is a little chibi red guy with like a screen for a face that animates and does all these different expressions, and they all have different voices. Like one guy sounds like he's from a city, the other guy sounds like he's really nerdy, and then there's a woman that sounds like a voice assistant.
Kind of like GLaDOS from Portal.
Little bit, yeah, yeah. She has that
Yeah.
kind of like digital. there's no inflection. She just kind of like says the sentence at the same speed from start to finish, and there's no
Yeah.
holding back. There's no conservation. She just says what she's thinking when she's thinking. I say she. I'm assuming it's a girl. Um,
Yeah.
and she's the robot. I don't give her a name. It's just like it's a number designation. I don't remember it. But this particular robot is also very nondescript. It's a pyramid.
Hmm.
Like it looks like
Yeah.
it's like a dumbed down version of a Dalek from Doctor Who. And
Yeah, it's a more streamlined Dalek, and she's like in three segments.
yeah,
They
and so
kind of shift slightly,
when she dances, it's like one segment just kind of going left, right,
like back and
left,
forth, and
right.
like
Like
she's
it's
turning in a circle. Yeah,
yeah. There's
it's kind of
there's
funny.
some fun stuff like and she right before that she walks up to a jukebox that's obviously destroyed and surprisingly functioning. It's like, show me what you got, big boy, and then just it starts playing music and she starts moving, and like there's all these little digs and humor and all this kind of stuff that's layered in there. And sometimes it's a little on the nose. The robots are talking about the failure of humanity and what war and what nuclear weapon destroyed them all. Oh, nothing. They polluted themselves into non-existence because they were idiots. And so some of it's a
Hmm.
little bit over, like right on the top, on the nail. But it's like, well, so we might need that, right
I think
now.
that's why I liked it so much because
Yeah,
we're just like, hey guys, if you keep going,
yeah,
here's what's gonna happen. Like,
yeah,
I definitely think it had a bit of a political statement about that a little bit,
yeah.
which I'm a little bit grateful for. Like, if you can include a political statement with a little bit of humor, but also kind of be like, all right, but no, seriously, get your shit together.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm into that. That's the thing why I liked Wally so much.
Yes, oh for sure. It has a Wally
Yeah.
vibe. It absolutely has a Wally
Yeah.
vibe. Right down to the bots
Well, no,
designs too.
it has a really sinister Wally
Well,
vibe. It's
yes.
not at all. It's not like Wally, which is really cute and happy. It's
Yes,
definitely
that's
really
true.
dark. It's a lot of dark humor.
Dark
But
humor,
yeah, like
yeah.
everyone has like a similar design. Like the little red guy, kind of his LED face reminds me of Eva a little bit.
Yes, yeah, there
Like
are
the way he
some
blinks, his
yeah.
face moves, and
Yeah, yeah. And what I find so funny about that is as they reveal more about these individual robots as time goes on, the tall white one is a little bit jockey. He's a little bit like, I don't get it. Why do I want to do this? And the little red guy is very energetic and very enthusiastic and has a childlike curiosity about him. And it's revealed later that he's descended from baby monitors that became sentient, and so then that
yeah,
makes a lot of sense. And
yeah,
they don't call out any brands, and we won't either, but they do sort of hint at what the other two robots are descended from. One of them is an
yeah,
X-Bot 4000, and at some point during the short, he's holding another version of an X-Bot, and it's an entertainment console, and that's all they say. So, but it's a pretty
yeah.
obvious shot as to who's who and where they're from, uh,
Hmm.
and so it really was clever in that regards. I would imagine that you were tickled pink about all the cat stuff that happened.
No, it's just the cats were kind of sinister. I was like, "Oh, that's kind of that was a oddly sinister thing." But also like the fact that are we gonna spoil this? Is this one
This
that we're
I
gonna
don't
spoil?
necessarily think this was a. I wasn't super
No.
surprised. I just thought I was kind of like a
Okay.
fun eye roll at the end. But yeah,
Yeah. They managed to genetically engineer their cats with opposable thumbs. And the cat joke makes a joke. He's like, "Yeah, as soon as we were able to open our own tuna cans, it was over for them." Like, you know, um, because really that's kind of all cats domesticated themselves because we were able to provide them food. Once they're able to provide food for themselves, they're probably going to be fine. Like
hmm
cats are going to take over the planet, I'm sure. They're very self sustaining. But no, like it had a really good humor. It was really unexpectedly funny. Like the first like swear bomb that was dropped, I was like, oh, okay, so this is where we're going with this, all right.
yeah,
So it was just sort of like I think it was funnier to me because it was really unexpected. Because it looks like when it first opens, it's like a really dark post-apocalyptic thing. You see a robot shop, it's like, okay, robots destroyed the Earth,
yeah,
and then he was like, man, we are lost. It's like one shows up with like a camera, one's like, wait, no, like it's just as beautiful as it said in the brochure. Like it just like all these robots are being tourists now.
yeah.
And it was just I don't know, it was just a really fun twist on robots, but like I liked the dialogue. I thought the dialogue was really great in this one.
hmm
Out of all of them, I think the best. It had the best dialogue. I think it had the best dialogue delivery
hmm
because it kind of felt a little bit uh like improv, like it felt like a really natural conversation,
Yeah,
like
maybe.
especially with the little guy. He was, we were talking about the cat gonna explode. He's like, yeah, I mean, it might explode. Maybe don't stop petting it though.
Yeah.
Like he just like the way he's talked about things and how they find like
Yeah.
a basketball. He's like the entertainment orb, and he's like super excited about everything. He was definitely my favorite. And his face, like the animations of his face when he's talking about bouncing the ball, his face bounces.
Yes. Yeah,
Um,
there's a lot of stuff like
like little
that.
details like that. There's a couple things that I think that were a little bit too. I think I watched it again, and one thing that I was kind of like, ugh, really okay. They wrote, you know, in blood on the wall, we hashtag we are fucked.
Oh yeah.
And then underneath of it, it was like a dead cheerleader, and I was like, oh, okay, well, thanks, guys.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I think the whole thing was meant to be super satirical and really,
Yeah.
very much a dark comedy. It's like a bad comedy movie, but with really good delivery.
Yeah, really good delivery. And surprisingly, I
Yeah.
looked it up, and Josh Brenner is the voice of KVRC. That's the little red guy.
Mm.
Gary Anthony Williams is XBot 4000, and Chris Parnell is the cat. The third robot is not listed, which suggests to me that it was it was an AI voice, like it was an engineered line delivery where they
Interesting.
said they typed the script and said, "Here, get the AI to say this." And then yeah,
Interesting.
right, because otherwise you would think, I mean, that actor or actress would have to be credited, right? Like, so that
Yeah.
to me is really really cool. I want to now look up more about it and read more about how they made it,
Mm-hmm.
because of that. Because I think that's really really cool. I don't get the KVRC reference. I might have to look that up. I mean, VRC sort of says video
I think
recorder,
VRC.
like
I
kid
think
video
VRC
recorder or something.
was a brand of baby monitors. Hang
Is
on a
it?
second.
Is it really okay? Because
VRC.
I get the XBot reference, like that is pretty bang on. But the KVRC, I'm not
Yeah.
familiar. I imagine any parents would probably be just like, oh yeah, I have one of those. You know? Yeah, I'm not really sure. Anyway, I really enjoyed this one. This was I think it was the second one that I watched. So I went from Sony's Edge to this,
Yeah.
and
I went from that to Sunny's Edge. So I had a complete like flip of like, so I was like, okay, okay. So like the having three robots kind of be my introductory to it. I was like, okay, all right, this is cute, this is fun. Let's keep going. And then I had Sunny's Edge, and I was just like, oh, what is happening? And I just had like a little bit of like a what's going on right now. And then my boyfriend and I figured out that it was like, oh, it's an anthology. None of it is related. So it definitely kept us interested. It kept us watching. We watched a fair number. But yeah, going from it was a very, very extreme tone shift. Like
yeah,
super extreme.
yeah, no, absolutely. And you're right. KVRC is it's a baby monitor uh, manufacturer. I just googled it, and there's like 6 or 8 hits, and it's all Walmart, like across the top.
Mm-hmm.
It's all
Yeah.
VTech, Motorola. So it's got something to do. It's got something to do with the technology inside of baby monitors for the new video monitors that are out there. Interesting. I thought that made me chuckle when he told Xbot where he came from. I was like, okay. The fact that he's like 2 foot tall and shaped like a toddler is not lost on me.
Mm-hmm.
Like it
Yeah.
was really really well done.
Yeah. It
Uh,
was cute.
I love the character design on this too. It was perfect. Well, that brings us
Yeah.
to the end of this episode of the Citadel Cafe. If you'd like to find links to the stuff that Megan and I talked about, you can visit the show notes at thecitadelcafe.com. You can also write us at thecitadelcafe@gmail.com and let us know what you thought of the shorts that you have managed to watch of Love, Death, and Robots. If you head over to patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe, you can support the show. We're 100% listener supported. If you enjoy what you're hearing and you want to give a little bit of value back into the show, you can do that over at Patreon. And we are currently at 16 patrons, which is one ahead of where we were in February, which is awesome. Don't let that stop you, though. So if you want to join the community, there's a Discord where we talk about all kinds of nerdy stuff. You can do that at patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe, and you will have my eternal gratitude. Everything that I am doing online right now is at joelduggan.com. That includes my illustration and design portfolio. Right now, I'm going to point you towards Twitch, where I do a lot of live art streaming. So I'm working on a couple of commissions right now, and I have permission from the clients to stream the production of those live. And it's been a lot of fun because I get to hang out with you folks and talk about all kinds of things in the chat while I'm drawing. So if you enjoy that kind of thing, then find me over at twitch.tv/Joel Duggan. Megan, where can people find all the cool stuff that you're doing online?
People can find me online on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Megan Townsend. I've actually been rebranding my YouTube channel a little bit to try and neaten it up, giving it a facelift before I start posting new content that I've been pre-recording over the last couple of months. If you want to follow my personal project, The Heir of Keldanan, which I'll probably be outsourcing chapters to very soon, I will be posting a link to that on my Instagram page for that, to The Heir of Keldanan, HEIR.
You've been listening to the Citadel Cafe, where there is love, death, and robots, but you can only pick two.